Well, apparently I can't even enjoy a Saturday because now talks are breaking down. Iran wants control over the Strait of Hormuz. They did not have that control before. Iran wants war reparations or tolls, or both, which they did not have before. The only ships that are really getting through the Strait of Hormuz right now are either allies of Iran or are paying Iran's extortion fees. And it's worth noting they're all purposefully going around the island in between the Strait of Hormuz to avoid what is widely believed to be a lot of mines. Nobody knows naval mines quite like the Iranians, okay? And nobody knows it quite like they do. The problem with them and their laying of mines is they might not actually even know where their own mines are. That, in addition to now, news from JD Vance, given that just minutes ago he held a press conference, he is going back to the United States without a deal. Iran wants nuclear enrichment. They want to make the bomb. But the United States and many others don't want Iran to become another North Korea. The problem is Iran is diametrically opposed to agreeing to anything that would limit their ability to enrich uranium because they believe it is their God-given right to enrich nuclear fuel. JD Vance, in his press conference, just said, quote, "We are negotiating in good faith," which is interesting because I do personally wonder if really are we negotiating in good faith, or are we really just reloading? I don't know. There's a little bit of that skepticism from me where you kind of get a little bit of the Donald coming in and going, JD, I need you to go. I need you to put on a great act. One of the greatest acts we've ever seen. An act like nobody, not even Obama, could have done. So I don't know. Okay, call me a little skeptical. But JD says we leave with a very simple proposal, and that is our best and final offer, and we'll see if the Iranians accept it. After 21 hours of negotiating, apparently we left with a best and final offer that includes no nuclear enrichment and no tolls for Iran for Hormuz, which is exactly where we left off before the ceasefire. And then we had a ceasefire plan and we never actually got Trump telling us what the full details of the 10 items were, probably because some of the items on there were enrichment and tolls for Hormuz, which initially Trump suggested was workable, but now doesn't seem workable. And most people think Trump really just either needed an off-ramp or his homies needed some calls to pump, okay? Because the poly market guys, they certainly made some money. But anyway, the bottom line here is no agreement has been reached. And usually I'm actually quite optimistic about in-person belly-to-belly conversations and negotiations. I personally think it's the best way to discuss issues and resolve issues and come to some kind of agreement. So the fact that despite Pakistan's best efforts in mediating, we couldn't get any closer isn't great. JD Vance even calls this, quote, bad news for Iran, less so bad for America. But we go back without an agreement. We made our red lines clear. They have chosen not to accept. And JD Vance reiterates we need an affirmative commitment that would prevent Iran from achieving a nuclear weapon. We do not yet see, and we have not yet seen, any fundamental commitment that they will not develop a nuclear weapon, and therefore we are left with shortcomings in these talks. Apparently, we just could not get where the Iranians would accept the American terms, and we were not able to make headway. Hormuz is an issue, obviously, but we're constantly negotiating about that, sanctions relief, the war in Lebanon, and otherwise. JD Vance reiterates they gave their best and final offer. Now, Iranian propaganda, I mean, we have U.S. propaganda, and then there's Iranian propaganda. They say that it's actually the United States that has excessive demands that have hindered progress for a framework of an agreement. Iran 5 hours ago mentioned that this might be the last opportunity for diplomacy, though now there are some suggestions that maybe talks will actually continue, but you know, the U.S. delegation is on their way back to the United States now, so that way they'll, land Sunday, essentially. It's about, right now, it's about 7-ish a.m. in Pakistan. So anyway, and it's quite a flight. Iran's foreign minister says the success of diplomacy depends on the seriousness and good faith of the negotiators, and we need to refrain from maximalist and unlawful demands. Now remember, when we hear unlawful, that's likely because Iran thinks it's their God-given right to enrich uranium. And for some reason, before the war, the Strait of Hormuz saw somewhere around 140 to 150 ships transit through the strait. Now we're down to about 70 per week, which isn't great, and somehow Iran thinks every single vessel that goes through needs to coordinate with Iran now, that is now their strait. In other words, it seems they've really found the United States' Achilles heel, which then makes you sort of question, was this really not properly thought of beforehand? But who knows? So we'll see what happens now, but obviously this is slightly disappointing. The reason I say slightly is because, while we can be hopeful, we can always build in that conservativeness that there are seriously demands that are going to have to be worked on pretty heavily. And Iran really wants to enrich. And now they actually think they have more than they had even before the war, which is kind of wild. So I was hopeful going into these talks. I'm not horribly surprised. I was leaning maybe 60% we'll actually get something here. I have to say, though, this is probably not just in the 40% camp of disappointment. It's probably worse than that because we didn't even create like an outline. At least when Donald Trump says he's negotiating, he meets with folks and then he comes out, he's like, oh, yeah, we got a list we're working on. JD's just straight up like, we gave them their best and final offer. Peace. Well, all right. We'll see how this plays out, boys and girls, but I'm not happy about that. I will tell you, though, something that I am very happy about. And that is, Dave & Buster's on Wednesday was half price, and Jack and I absolutely dominated. I'm going to post another clip from Dave & Buster's on my Instagram. So if you haven't followed me on Instagram yet, and you want to see the kids or some of the things going on behind the scenes, make sure to follow me at Meet Kevin on Instagram. You can also follow me on X at RealMeetKevin. And of course, if you have not yet, make sure you check out the trade alerts for what trades we are dropping and what we're buying for the next 10 years. You can learn about that over at meetkevin.com. Not only get all 9 courses, but you get to see the buy the dips that we're doing. I'm sure there's gonna be some more dips on Monday. Every private live stream, every alpha report, every single morning. It's all bundled together in one package, nice and easy for you. The real estate artificial intelligence at househack.com is separate, but that's the only thing that's separate. Otherwise, absolutely everything is right here in the Meet Kevin membership. Use coupon code DUDE44 in honor of our fighter jets that got rescued after going down. I'm gonna hit the gym. See you, folks.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.